So we're working on where we want to put stuff, but first off we need to get our blocks mounted. So we have, here's the WindForce cooler on the 970 that Darren has been running, and outward appearance, it's quite long, but most of that, because here's the end of the PCB, most of that is to compensate for this extra fan. So we went with EK Waterblock's nickel clear, I don't know what you want to call this thing, but we got a water block. That will take up less space on the PCB once we get that installed, and will give us more room in our case so that we might be able to fit the res right here. Alright, so let's get started. When I did the review, I took this block apart, and I believe it's just a couple of screws.
So what card is this we're working on?
You should know, it's your card.
It is a GeForce 970 GTX G1 Gaming Edition.
Oh, come on, you can say that, right? GTX 970 G1 Gaming Edition from Gigabyte.
All right, that's fair.
Yeah.
And of course it uses the award-winning WindForce cooler, which is one of the best air-cooled solutions out there.
Unfortunately, these cards are not as popular as you would think. A lot of people gravitate to like the Asus or the EVGA. They seem to be a bit more popular with the gamers. However, that illusion is probably just my own because, you know, didn't you find like 3 of these on Craigslist a couple weeks ago?
I did. Of course, with the announcement of the 10 series cards, a lot of folks are rushing to dump their 9 series cards, which is a quick tip if you are looking for an upgrade. It is the ideal time to be doing that. Hey!
Up!
It's always a little scary.
Well, it's only been on here for 2 or 3 years.
It's been a terrific card actually, and I still wouldn't mind pairing it with the second one, but the lure of the 1070, 1080 is strong, so we'll see what happens.
Alright, I'll get this GPU cleaned up a little bit. The WindForce cooler is it's a core contact design, which, you know, we're talking about water cooling here, but yeah, we can look at the air cooler. So we have core contact, so basically that means that the copper pipes in the heat pipe solution make contact with the GPU directly.
And that is more efficient as long as you have a nice solid contact.
Well, you have to have solid contact. It takes a little bit more thermal paste because you got to fill those cracks up, which on a GPU, more thermal paste isn't bad. Some people worry about it touching the transistors and stuff like that, but really it's not that big of a deal. The thing that I've noticed with core contact designs on CPUs, for instance, is that they have a limited amount of heat capacity in terms of sustained heat production. So when you are gaming, for instance, you don't have a constant load on your CPU or even on your GPU. It's constantly fluctuating. So these core contact designs work well because they remove the heat extremely well. But if you have a sustained load, and it happens to be right on the cusp of what this heat cooler can handle, it gets saturated really fast, and then you have temperatures running wild.
Or throttling.
Or throttling, which is the unfortunate side effect.
So the solution would be to get a second 970 to offload for physics, right?
Yes. Actually, no. I think what you need is probably 2 780 classifieds. They're both water-cooled. It's something I suggested for you to put into this machine. So
purely to offload the physics and math coprocessing.
Yes. I mean, the more the better.
So the good news is those cards have become very affordable as a physics solution if you had absolutely nothing better to do.
Well, I have 3 of them, so we're gonna put at least 2 in here for, you know, the build. So that's not really cleaned up very well, but it's good enough. I'll get some alcohol a little bit later. But oops, haha, did that on camera.
Dun dun dun.
Oh, good thing is we don't need those screws. So EK Waterblocks.
So why did we choose an EK Waterblock again?
It was the only one available.
So one of the disadvantages of choosing a boutique card, in this case the G1 Gaming Edition, is it doesn't use a pure reference design, and so that limits your cooling options.
Yeah, well, you can use this cooler or you can use no cooler.
So the good news is that companies like EK
There it is.
tend to make at least limited runs of these specific model coolers, and this is a perfect example.
So basically this will flip over. We have the VRM cooler over here. We have some memory chips. Here is our GPU. And then I believe in our box of EK parts we'll have new thermal pads to put on here.
We do.
So here's our new thermal pads.
The other advantage of purchasing a kit from a reputable company as opposed to somebody with a generic kit on, say, eBay, for example.
Oh, by the way, there are instructions. It's pretty self-explanatory.
Dun dun dun.
Oh, and I did throw that in the case. It should be fine. Okay, we have some thermal paste, which we'll probably not use. This is the tool for our plugs.
It says please carefully read the manual thoroughly.
Do you want to read the manual?
It's on one page.
Yeah. All right, so we have like a whole bunch of screws in here, and some of them have nuts. Guessing maybe that's for a back plate or something.
Some don't.
Yeah, so we got 8 screws?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's correct.
All right.
I do show that we have PVC washers,
PVC washers. Oh yeah, these things. The little clear washers right here.
and it looks like we're going to do 4 with and 4 without. So the interior 4 without PVC washers, if the stock washers are still present. If they're not, then we will use the PVC replacements.
Oh, well, we got a...
So that, my friend, is why we have so many.
Yeah, so we have that and that. So it's using the stock holes. That's cool. Which also means that we could use the stock backplate.
Which seems like a win.
Although I don't think we will because we want to remove this part.
Oh, of course, because we need the space.
But you know what? That doesn't mean that we can't try to put it on there. So am I still in frame or did I pull this too close to myself?
You are good to go. I've got the whole work source in frame.
Aw.
The miracles of modern science, or at least modern YouTube.
Modern YouTube.
So while Dennis is doing this today, we are filming with a Nikon D5200 camera
And if Nikon is watching, they can send us more better cameras.
and better lenses.
Yes, more lenses, more better.
And our sound is being furnished today by a microphone from Movo
Movo!
that we are testing out today.
Impulse purchase.
So hopefully it sounds good for you guys.
I need that other can. And it works. We have some Dr. Duster. This should be like flammable.
So a good hot tip is you should never try to use a non-iodized air or vacuum as a cleaning solution unless you like buying new hardware.
Or, you know, installing water blocks on carpet.
Yes.
But you know what? It's not going to cause a problem. Famous last words.
Famous last words.
All right, so here's our plugs. If we do the parallel, what will happen is that we'll have a Thermaltake fitting on this side and a Thermaltake fitting on this side. And then water will go through here, fill up the block, come out, and then it'll come back through and then back out.
Sounds very good.
And if it's only like partially parallel, then it'll be a little bit different. All right, so we got some Ishprel alcohol here. Not that it matters, but it's 70%. And normally you use these to clean wounds, but right now we have a wound which is a GPU. We're just going to clean this up a little bit. On a bit of a side note, I spend hours doing this so that I can take pictures of the GPU for reviews.
Oh, behind the scenes.
Yeah, well, you'd be surprised at how messy the factory thermal paste is. Yeah, let's get some
While we're
more.
on the subject, what is a recommended thermal paste? Same as a CPU? What would you recommend?
Ooh, let's see, recommends. That's dangerous on the internet. It's the same. I actually, believe it or not, I use the Noctua brand thermal compound. It spreads well, it doesn't require any setup, and it's easy to clean up. It doesn't necessarily work well under cold, but in terms of water, it will be perfect. I mean, that's kind of what it was designed for. So, and see, we'll get this in here, kind of dry this off a little bit, you know, because we're terribly OCD, and now it's clean.
Ta-da! Like a mirror.
Like a mirror. All right, so, Mr. Instructions, how do we install the thermal
I'm
pads?
so glad you asked. From our one sheet here,
Hey, memory ones.
apply the thermal compound. They actually recommend a star pattern, which is not real common.
Star. I mean, like an X?
No.
Oh, yeah, that's
Maybe an asterisk for the thermal pads.
That's dumb. All right, so let's see.
The block comes with thermal pads. Some are pre-cut, others must be cut into smaller chunks to cover your MOSFETs and drivers. Please remove the protective foil for both sides prior to installation. That seems important.
Yeah, you know, I bought some 7A classifieds off of eBay, and these were converted cards. So they were air-cooled cards that they put the water blocks on. And when I took the blocks off, I realized that he left the memory ones with the protective coating on there still.
No.
And I was like, well, how the heck do you do that? So I went and looked up the instructions. The instructions didn't say anything about removing it. And some idiot did a YouTube video, on how to install the water block, and he didn't remove them either. So I'm thinking, okay, this guy watched the video to figure out how to do it because he couldn't read the instructions and did it incorrect.
So we'll be putting these pads in 7 different locations.
7?
Counting. Okay, so we've got these guys.
Oh, that's right.
These guys is optional.
This is where the heat is, though.
The main. 1, 2, 3 of these guys. A fourth up there. And then it recommends one on these guys as well.
Really? Oh, yeah, that's right. It's kind of cool right here.
So it matches actually if you look at the raised areas here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And this would cover that whole area there.
Yep.
So, with that in mind, I will leave the handy reference chart so we don't accidentally forget some.
Yeah, I don't know. You should do this. All right.
Now, how important is it that you get an exact fit? We're not cutting these to match the shape of the components.
It's not terribly important. Like, for instance, on our WindForce cooler, you see how these are just kind of like squished all over the place?
As long as you have a good solid contact.
Well, and ironically, it's like we have the MOSFET cooler here, but we don't have the memory MOSFETs over here as being cooled at all.
I should turn my reference around to match what you're doing. See, never let it be said that we don't occasionally read the instructions.
Instructions are for wins.
And thanks, EK, for providing really clean, precise instructions with nice, easy to see pictures.
Next time, provide the block. Right?
Yeah.
Go. Oh, and then I guess we could pull the protective part off, but we'll do that later. All right, so what did it suggest to put here? These guys?
The number 2.
Yeah, that pad. So we got some scissors.
Oh, you're cheating there.
I'm cheating. Figure the factory knows best. Camo. Okay. And then it wants one here.
And right there.
Right here, huh?
Uh-huh.
All right, so I'm going to put the pad on that one over there. So for this, let's get that down in there. Dun, 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 dun. Let's see, that's perfect. So undo. And from the factory, from Gigabyte, this is not cooled, so.
Ooh, additional cooling.
Yep.
More overhead for overclocking.
So to speak. I guess we could hook your computer up to the chiller. Get the water temp down to, -10 or something.
So that's actually a good topic that we haven't discussed. Maybe just a quick overview.
Overviews.
So this water cooling kit does not include a chiller. So what is a chiller?
Well, if you want to, we'll do a little camera montage, but a chiller is basically a water chiller. Actually, I was going to do this over here. The way that I do it, I mean, there's lots of ways that you can set this up. I have a single stage phase cooler, which is like a big refrigerator condensed down to a small little phase head. And I attach that to a water block that will circulate water. So basically the chiller is cooling down the water block, which in turn transfers that to the liquid that will circulate throughout the water cooler.
Now that is a big, fancy, expensive solution, but you could purchase a commercial chiller to add to your water cooling loop.
Yeah, you could, but that's not fun.
And those are much more compact, of course, so less efficient because size does equal performance when it comes to your refrigerated devices, but it will allow you to bring the water temperature of your cooling loop down to below ambient, which is a nice way of saying, dun dun dun,
It's cold.
it's cold. And a good day, sub-zero without freezing if you have good liquid.
All right, so in case you haven't figured out by now, this is going a little bit slower than I expected.
But we can speed it up in post.
We can.
We have the technology.
Thermal paste. Dun, dun. So, put a big splooge in there. Normally I kind of put 4 or 5 dots around the outside, but I don't think it's necessary. Alright, so this part's going to suck. Maybe this is the side I should remove first.
Very delicate process.
Well, this one is really stiff,
Ah.
so it came off really easy.
Oh, you're right. We could have done that backwards. Lessons learned for next time.
Yeah.
Save the easy side for last. So of course, when you're doing this, your primary concern is to make sure that you haven't changed and you still have full coverage on each of your components.
And you don't want to touch these.
But the good news is that you're going to get some compression from the block, which is going to help ensure that you have a solid and even compression on those heat transfer pads.
Mm-hmm. Oh, so while I'm doing this, do you want to grab the appropriate fasteners,
Yes,
since you have the instructions?
the appropriate fasteners. So take the instructions away here.
I don't think they'll mind. Yeah, that's true. You're working Alright, so we got the crazy plastic coverings off, which I did backwards, it would seem. And now we just sandwich the two pieces together. Normally I do this over the edge of the table, drop this on top. I think we're going to have to go the other direction. So, get these lined up. together like that. Line up the screw holes. And
Beautiful. So we need to put a washer on each of these.
on the outer ones, right?
How about all of them, unless you have the factory washers present?
Okay, fine.
We want to do it right. And of course, we are working from the GPU out. The nice thing is that once you get the first couple of them to connect, it becomes a lot less fitzy.
Mm-hmm. There we go.
Of course, we'd always recommend that the best possible solution is to put your video card in a vise. No, that's not it.
No, actually the vise I think works. Although my vise is covered in engine oil, so I don't think you'd want that on your computer. You know, because
It might be a good conductor.
it might actually help with thermals.
Have we tried to use it as a liquid cooling solution?
No, but you know what? That sounds like a great video idea.
Yes, it does. We'll save that for a future day. The same day we tested nacho cheese.
And to know the reference for the nacho cheese, check out the podcast, episode 60, also available on YouTube. All right, so we have these. Give them a quick little cinch. And now we can do the outsides.
Dun, dun, dun. Give us a quick look at the other side. Oh, look at that. It's nice how they made room for the caps.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the caps.
Definitely a dramatically reduced profile. I almost wish that we had a single slot on the other side. But I might need those extra video ports.
Yes, you probably will. All right, so where's the other holes?
So we are looking now. Dun, dun, dun. So you're looking at the card. We got 1, 2,
Mm-hmm.
3, 4.
Yeah, that was a joke. I know where they were. Gotchas.
Oh, it seems so complicated.
Yeah, it is a little bit. Actually, you want to know a complicated cooler. Try to remove a reference cooler from an NVIDIA card. That has a lot of screws. And they're kind of hidden sometimes.
Well, it's interesting. I guess they don't expect that you're going to try to do anything if you chose the reference cooler.
Yeah, well, you know, you're lame if you pick a reference card.
So speaking of which, at the time of this video, the 10 series have been announced, which we've already talked about.
1080, 1070, both.
And that, of course, means most likely there will be 1070 ties at some point, if they're consistent.
Yeah, NVIDIA is anything but consistent.
So we are building with a 970, which of course has become a very cost-effective solution for gamers and overclockers alike. And we are doing that primarily because that's what we have. And it already has a water block available, although by the time this is released, they will probably be releasing 1070, 1080 support as well. I know some's already been announced.
Mm-hmm. Well, and this is yours. This isn't mine.
So as a future upgrade, we now have the option to add a second 970 at a discounted price, which is always a fantastic reason to purchase a video card, or to move up to a 1070. And we can wait until, dun dun dun, we've got some benchmarks to see if it's worth pursuing a second 970 or more cost effective to sell this 970 and move up. And that, of course, is a future upgrade.
Yep, that's Darren for you. All right, so it does look like we could get this backplate to fit on here. We'll have to drill these out.
So what is the advantage of having a backplate?
Well, looks.
Yeah. So what we need to do is determine whether we've made the space work.
Yep, we do. So you're going to have to move your camera.
All right, so bear with me as we slide to the left here.
Slide to the left. All right, so this is where your video card is going to go. All right. And we got some cables there. We'll get those out of the way. We got our fancy dancy guys over here.
And it looks, as I will, all like we've made enough space.
Yep.
And we have. Fantastic. Now, of course, we need to make sure that we have room for cables, but the good news is most of the cables are already in place.
Yeah, so we're going to put this right here. And if we do the rad up here and the ports over on this side, we can come back down and directly into the return. And then our outward port is down here. It'll come out this way, kind of go up this, and in here. And then we can go out here into here, here to here, or here. Yeah. Yeah, you can make that work.
So it seems like we have enough space to make the loop work without having to remove or modify the drive trays.
Yep, well, let's get that radiator out, take a look.